Hi, it's Therese and Lostinpaper, and I've got this cover die called No Two Are Alike, and it's a snowflake die from Penny Black, and I'm kind of basing my card around this today. So I've decided to do the smooshing technique on my background, and I have a piece of watercolour cardstock that happens to be gessoed, purely because I had it for another project and didn't use it. I'm working on my craft sheet and using some of the Ranger distress inks because they really react beautifully with water. I'm using my spritzer also to add some water, but you could also just drop some droplets of water on or use just any old sort of water spray. Then I can just simply pick up the colour with an acetate sheet and move it round on my card front until I'm happy. The thing with watercolours is that they do mix when they're wet, so what I like to do is let them dry on their own, air dry. So while that's happening, I'll just set that aside to dry. I'm going to cut out my die cut now, just in some white cardstock. Just run that through my Big Shot machine. The problem was I used my old cutting plate, the old, the plastic cutting plates. Is that what they're called? Anyway, it's all warped. And I didn't even think of it because this is such an intricate die. I could have used a shim. I've got a metal plate there, and also, what else have I got? I could have used one of my new ones, but no, I just left the old one in there, and now I'm trying to save the die cut. I was actually planning on cutting some of the snowflakes out anyway and just having like a partial die cut cover plate or die cut cover thing, piece of cardstock. But this actually was the deciding factor about which snowflakes got cut away. So the ones that didn't get cut in the passes through the die cut machine or through my Big Shot were the snowflakes that got trashed to the bin. So it did take me quite a while. I've got a nice sharp craft knife. I use my metal ruler to just cut the edges nice and straight, and then I can just simply pierce or cut away the die cut panel until I'm happy with the whole sort of finished product. And I like how this turned out. It just took quite a while. There you go. It's beautiful. I'll do it better next time, I promise. So now my panel is well and truly dry, and I'm going to add some more layers of smooshing. I'm going for some analogous colours today. So these colours sit beside each other in the colour wheel, and that was Peacock Feathers, and the last one is Twisted Citron, and I have let this dry in between each layer. I wanted a little bit more depth, so what I'm doing here is I've actually got a paintbrush now, and it's a fairly large paintbrush. It might be like around 6 or something like that, adding lots of water and lots of fluid to the actual brush end, and then just creating some large and small splatters. I've also set that aside to dry because I want to do a second layer of that as well. And in the meantime, I've stamped out this little cutie. He's from the Snow Fairies set, and they are so cute. These fairies, there's like 3 of them, I think, in the set, and also a snowman. And I've used some tuxedo black and then just doing some really simple Copic colouring. I didn't want to make this too complicated. And sort of the same thing again, I have stuck to the same sort of colour family here. It's when you use analogous colours, you can use anywhere between 3 and 5 colours that are adjacent on the colour wheel, so you know that they're going to blend well together and play well together and look good. And who doesn't love these colours? So this is the BG family, which is probably one of my favourite groups of colours in the Copic family, and I am adding some of the BG11 just to brighten that up. Even though it's such a different tone of colour, it still kind of works well on there. The greens, I've gone for the YGs here, which I think is very similar to the Twisted Citron in the Ranger inks. And then some simple feathering on the wings of the fairy. I do fussy cut this out, leaving just a small white border. It was pretty easy to cut out because I'm going to pop him up on the front of my card. So this card's turning out quite different to how I originally planned, but I'm just going with it. I don't know, if you're anything like me, you don't like to waste things, so I figured, well, at least if I can use the cover die for something, rather than waste it or start again, why not? So this is my second lot of splatters, and I decided to go with the Twisted Citron. And then while that's drying, I'm just going to stamp out my sentiment. And I'm using my Misty here because I do want to stamp directly onto my watercolour panel. And one of the tricks that I use is I actually stamp the sentiment onto the piece of paper that's in the Misty, and that way I can see if it's going to be straight rather than accidentally stamp crooked. And then I can tuck my cardstock back into the corner where it was exactly, and then I know when I stamp it's going to be a nice straight sentiment. So this is a simple sentiment from the Holiday Snippet set, and I am using some Ranger jet black ink. It's a archival ink, so it should work well on the gesso background. That's perfect. So now it's time to assemble my card. I've cut a top fold card down as to the same size as the cover die, which is slightly smaller than the Australian size finished cards. And I'm using my ATG gun, and I'm putting lots of adhesive down because I am adhering that watercolour panel. And it didn't warp, and I think that might have something to do with the fact that the panel was gessoed. And so once that's all adhered down, I can actually start working on adding some glue to the snowflake panel. And this did take quite a while, so I have cut that out, but just try not to add too much. I'm using the matte medium because I know it's got a nice strong hold and it should stick well to the front of the card. And I did try and get all the bits of the snowflakes around the edge because I didn't want them to sort of peel up. I'm actually going to adhere this straight down. I'm not popping it up. I often like to pop things up, but I wanted to keep this card fairly simple. Well, it's not simple. There's heaps of steps to it, but I want the finished look to be fairly simple. And then finally, my little snow fairy here gets popped up using some... These are the foam squares from scrapbook adhesives. And I wanted the sentiment just to sit between his leg and the snowball, which worked out perfect. And a little bit of sparkle. I was going to say sparkle. I don't think that's a word. Anyway, some sparkle. I've got my crystal clear Spectrum Noir glitter pen and adding that to his wings. I did seriously toss up whether I should add it to the snowball or the wings. I don't know. The wings won, of course. So that's my finished card today. Number, I don't know, 2 Christmas cards. I don't know where I'm at. Not many, not yet anyway. But I'll be back again real soon. Till next time with some more Christmas cards. Happy paper crafting. Bye.